Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. It's just Marco here once again, and I am here today to do another episode of Let's Make a Movie. I have been quite busy this month, as you guys can see. Or at least the past 2 months, I've been shooting, and this is, to be honest, this is the best way to do it when you're at this level, I think. This is what I believe they said this is what Sam Raimi did for Evil Dead, the first Evil Dead, is that he would just have people come every weekend and they would film something and, like every weekend. And, like, that's a good way to get things done because it gives you a lot of space and it gives you a lot of time to process what you film and digest like what you've done, because the problem when you shoot stuff all at once is that a lot of it clouds together, like it all like mixes together and it becomes cloudy, and it doesn't really, unless you're really really familiar with that person and everything is thoroughly planned out, it's not going to go as good as it could if you took the time to say, like, hey, like, okay, we filmed these couple of sequences. Now, let's break for a week and then return. And, it's much better that way. Unfortunately, when you have limited resources and when you can't pay people, that makes it an issue. But then there are people who, don't have any problem with that, who they want to make movies and they don't care. And, if you're at that small type of level, then those are the types of people that you need to attract, because those are the people who are going to show up and those are the people who are going to help you make your movie. You're not going to, as much as you might think that, like, oh, I'm being smart because I'm getting the person who's really, really good, or I'm getting someone who's been in movies. But the problem is that those people, they need more incentives, and they need some kind of like an extra reason to want to come. And if they're just doing it for free, oftentimes it's a lot harder to keep them on board. And so I guess the first two tips would be, again, space out your shooting, and also hire people who are really willing to do it for free. Because there are too many people nowadays who just think they're very elitist. They think that they're better than everything and everyone. And those types of people you can weed out by simply being like, hey, this is my first movie. I can't pay you, but I can buy you food, I can reimburse your gas and things like that. Those little tiny things, like, although they're not much, it's like, it's better than nothing, and the people who are on your level will appreciate that, and those are the types of people that you want. So for starters, earlier this week, I did not think I would be well enough to shoot. I was feeling extremely sick. I took a long time to recover from the last shoot, where I did not take any breaks. I hardly drank any water, and it was a disaster. And we didn't even have any lunch either, because I let one of the actors decide that we shouldn't. The jerk actor, the worst one that was there. Eventually, I did end up feeling better. It took a couple of days, but I ended up getting back to quote-unquote normal, kind of. So a lot of the stuff that I did to prepare for this next shoot, I did at the very, very last minute, because I was thinking of canceling the whole week, the whole time up to that point, which I'm glad I didn't cancel. And that's another thing, too. It's very similar to working out, where if you guys have ever had a workout routine, a lot of the times it's hard to even get to the gym. And the feeling of like, oh, well, I don't have to work out today. I could just work out tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes and it's like, oh, I don't have to work out today. I can work out tomorrow. And that just continues and continues until you don't work out ever, or maybe like once in a while, which is actually what happened with me, although I did get injured and that did complicate things, but still, it's the same thing with filming. So I was glad that I decided, no, I'm gonna keep my promise and I'm gonna keep that commitment because I'm committed to getting this stuff done, and because the location is very busy, oftentimes, and I don't want to interfere with their activities much longer. So I had to remake an entire special effect. It was very difficult because I had to take the whole thing apart, basically, and I had to redo the whole thing. But it ended up looking a lot better. I think, too, like, I can't wait to talk about with spoilers, because I think, too, the way that it ended up looking, the way that it looked, even though you could take a look at it and say, oh, that's not perfect, it's like the way that it was actually utilized in the shoot was so perfect, it not only exceeded expectations, but it actually looked like a professional effect. And the thing that I was so surprised was the fact that this particular special effect was one I did not research. In fact, I was very worried about it. I got the cow eyeballs that I couldn't use. I wanted to use a cow jawbone, and I wanted to just do something, because like a lot of people, when they're on your level, they think in very small terms, and like you could just like do it off screen and then show like a quick shot of pieces of stuff on a fake blood, and it's like they think in terms of like they know that you have limitations, so they think in a limited way. And that's not their problem. It's the problem of like, having limitations. And what I do, though, is I often think way too far beyond my limitations. And so, in particular, like waiting for this cult set the whole time, like all these months, it was probably not a very smart thing to do. It was probably something where it kind of made me look bad until I finally got that cult location to film in. But it all worked out, just like this special effect. And so I kind of actually, looking back, I almost kind of regret not just figuring out these other special effects myself, because I feel like a lot of these special effects were made by someone who he figured them out himself, and they're like magic tricks. And the best way to do like a magic trick is for you to be really comfortable with what you're doing. And even though I was really nervous about this, the way that I thought everything out and I designed this intricate thing worked out so well that it's really too bad that not everyone else was there, because this would have been the number one moment out of all the moments filming in the entire movie where it would have been great to have an audience. Everyone would have been like, whoa, wow. Because like there was just one other person there with me doing this, and he was like, we were both on like cloud nine because it was that good. So before we get to that, I also had to cook new vegan sloppy joes, and this time I got a cheaper meat, or actually it's not meat, it's a Beyond Meat. I think the last time I got Impossible, or it might be the other way around. But it was so gross, it smelled like burning rubber. It smelled like a factory burning down. And when I was putting my fingers through the beef, quote unquote, it was like this paste, and then inside the paste were all these little hard pieces. It was so gross. It made me want to throw up. In fact, while I was cooking it, I was actively trying not to throw up because my gag reflex is very weak, and I cooked that, and then the smell was just, I was like, oh my God, this is terrible. This is absolutely awful. Why would people want to eat this for real? Like, ooh. And I did end up trying it. Well, both me and another actor did. And what was gross about it was that I seasoned it to perfection because I cooked them this time. But they tasted like they smelled. So it was like tasting that smell. And the smell was so pungent that even though I was eating like real ribs for lunch, like meat, it still tasted like that smell. So then I got to the temple, and I got to the hall area, the business part. Now this is where things took a turn. Vichyssoise was not there. And I was worried, like, am I going to have to sit around for 30 minutes and look like, oh, unprofessional because I don't have everything already set up? It turned out he was sick. So he called me, and I walked around, and luckily his dad was just so happening to walk through the hall to the room where I was shooting. And if you guys don't think that was like a weird coincidence, then I don't know what is, because he's the one who has the keys. So and the fact that Vichyssoise was on the phone, it was like the perfect series of events. And so he unlocked the doors for me, and that was great. It was like, wow, I'm glad that, like, even though last time shooting there was pretty stressful, I'm glad that things always work out to a certain degree. Like, to the degree that they're meant to work out. But then, sadly, only 2 out of the 3 actors showed up. One of them texted me and told me he was sick. And I'm not going to say anything more about that because obviously, that's terrible. And, I was almost too sick to shoot as well. But what was funny was that it reminded me of the first time that I came there to shoot, where I was really worried that, like, I bet just one person isn't going to show up. And it actually happened the second time. But instead of, like, just sitting around, like, being angry about it and being like, oh, I wish that, the timing worked out better, I sat down and I just looked through the shot list and I circled all the shots that we could do. And I ended up picking out, like, 74 shots. We didn't get through all 74, but we got through a huge amount. But I gotta say, too, I wanted to say this last week. One of my subscribers, he was talking to me, and he told me that, a lot of these people that you work with on these movies, the way that they keep quitting and or not showing up, and this doesn't apply to this week, applies to last week. The way that all these people keep doing that, even though they sign a contract and they need to honor their contracts, it makes them look really bad, and it makes them look expendable. Like the Expendables. And so he was telling me, like, you need to be in a place where you can't be concerned with these expendable people. Like, if that person just doesn't want to show up, just get someone else to do their role. Like, in a way where, like, if they really want to be that expendable, then just treat them as they want to be. And, that's exactly what I've had to do, unfortunately, over the course of filming, is that every time someone, does this kind of thing, it's like, oh, okay, I'll just get someone else then. And it just, the cycle will continue until I'm done with the movie, I mean, it's like, there's a lot of people nowadays, and they all have problems. And I'm not saying I don't have problems, but the way that people are so unprofessional nowadays, and the way that they just act like, especially last week when, that guy pretended like the casting call didn't say 1 to 2 days. I mean, that's just, it's very, very rude and unprofessional. And it's like, like, why do you think so low of yourself that you're, I mean, you don't like the movie, so you sign up for a movie that you're not passionate about for nothing. And you come here and you complain the whole time, and then you don't even show up to do anything else. It's like, why even do it to begin with? Because, like, I'm the one who's in charge of everything, like, there's nobody else who they're disappointing. But, like, why would you want to disappoint someone like that and show all these other people in a professional environment how bad you really are by, quitting? I mean, there's no such thing as an honorable quitter. There's no such thing, like, even with, like, a lot of the times, people might quit their job or quit their day job when they get to where they want to get. There's no such thing as an honorable quitter. There's not. People don't think that quitting is good. People don't think that quitters are good people. So it's weird how many there are nowadays in terms of that, in terms of, like, I'm not even going to call them quitters anymore. I'm just going to call them expendables, honestly, like, because that's what they deserve to be called. So I am happy to say the way that filming went this time, it went completely the opposite to how it was last time. I took my time. I took breaks. It kind of helped, though, I gotta be honest. It kind of helped that half of the stuff that I did was all sitting down. I wasn't on my feet the entire day because a lot of it was just back and forth dialogue. So that helped. And yet, even though I took a ton of breaks, and I didn't take a ton of breaks, but I took a ton in comparison to last week. But even though I took breaks and I took my time, I still got a lot of shit done. I worked for 5 hours, and I got the same amount of stuff done that I got the last week. So it shows that not taking breaks and not hydrating properly doesn't mean you're doing something special. It just means you're being an idiot. Plus, I think another great thing about this week was that everyone there really wanted to be there. There wasn't that one jackass who was there. And, it was kind of, like, brought up to me, like, I was thinking about it, and it was brought up that, like, everyone else that last week was really happy about being there and really excited and enthusiastic. But that other person, he was kind of like a turd in the punch bowl. And so he kind of created, like, a divide in the room between, like, oh, all these other people are, like, happy to be there. And then you have that one person, the turd in the punch bowl, the stick in the mud. So that's another thing, is that, like, I would honestly say, looking back, seeing the way that he acted, the way that he was coming off, like, see, the problem was was that I at first thought that he was just stressed out from his morning being like very rushed and hard, whatever. If I had figured out that he was just a jackass, I think that the best thing to do would have been to just get all of his shots done and say bye-bye. Because there really wasn't any benefit to keeping him around the whole day so that he could be a turd in the punch bowl. You know, I mean, why would you want a turd in your punch bowl? I mean, I don't even have to say his name. I mean, you could just call him the turd in the punch bowl. Like, that's probably what I'll call him now from here on out. Like, whenever I mention him, like, just do not hire turds in the punch bowl. That's a very important tip. And also, it helps that when everyone there who's there is really happy about being there and wanting to make this movie, it just makes everything so much better. It takes the filming experience and it boosts it up a lot, because there's only so much passion and stamina one person has in them naturally. And there's been a lot of times I've told you guys I've gotten burned out, depressed, or lost passion for the movie. And all that can be remedied by just having other people who are passionate as well. Because all of you guys, it's like you're feeding off of each other's passion. You're feeding off of each other's drive to get this done. I also had Safi help out a lot in terms of setting things up and then cleaning up. I thought that was a smart thing to do, because she just waited around in the parking lot anyways. So, you know, might as well ask her to help since she's there. And she didn't mind it at all, because, you know, we don't want to get anything in the room that we were shooting. And we didn't want to... That was another sad thing, though, is that I really wanted to finish shooting in that room. Like, my whole goal that day was to just finish the room. But unfortunately, the room is still not finished, and I'll have to film in there again. And so that was like a big, like, aw. But anyways, one of the things that I started off doing was shooting in the hallway for half of the stuff I needed to shoot there. It required a lot of reverse shots, which just means that you're filming, but you're filming the events backwards. This is actually really complicated. It's so complicated. I really wonder if there's somebody who their entire like job is just reverse shot expert. You know what I mean? Like somebody who just like figures out how to shoot a shot in reverse, because I feel like that could be an actual good job to add to the film industry. You know, unlike COVID compliance officers and intimacy coordinators, instead of those fuckers, get people who are reverse shot experts. Because when I was figuring out this reverse shot with Denise in the hallway, I was like, wow, this just, my mind started to just go like in circles, and I was like, okay, then what happens? Like, because it was so many different things. Like, it was like 10 plus things that we were doing in reverse. And hopefully it'll all look good too, because I've looked at it so far and it looks pretty good. It looks about like as good as I pictured. Like, it looks, because originally I wanted to shoot this sequence in a completely different part of the halls of the building. And I changed that because I thought, you know, it would make more sense to shoot it over here. So, yeah. Then we did have a paranormal experience. If you guys remember, or actually, you're not going to be able to remember very much because those podcasts are deleted. Or they're not deleted, they're just unlisted. Most of them. When I was filming with Michael, the first time I filmed with him, we were filming in the basement set. I was taking a long time to get through my lines. I kept on going off script, and I kept on like changing things here and there. And all of a sudden, while we were filming, the script and the shot list fell off the basement stairs by themselves. And it was weird. It was very weird because they were not like set to where they could fall off. They were set perfectly straight on the stairs. There wasn't any wind in the basement either. And then the location owner, James, did not do it. So that was really, really weird. And it was definitely a spirit who was there telling me, stick to the script. And a similar thing happened today. A similar thing. Or not today, yesterday. And it was at a similar time, too. I was saying these lines, and I was screwing up because they were very hard to say. Because the way that I was saying them, it made them so funny in like a creepy, gross way. And then there are also lines that like obviously I wouldn't have said in person, like for real. So it was very hard to kind of like get these lines right and get through this chunk of dialogue. So while I was trying to get through this chunk of dialogue and I kept on screwing up, all of a sudden I had these two chairs stacked on top of each other. And all of a sudden, one of the chairs moved by itself to where it was like, it was weird. It was like it was trying to like pull out the chair kind of like, and again, these chairs were perfectly stacked on top of each other. They weren't just haphazardly, like, because I remember how I stacked them. They weren't just haphazardly stacked up to where they could easily fall over. They were stacked tightly together. So, and I'm not the only one who saw this. I saw this out of the corner of my eye. Denise, the cult maid, she saw this herself. Like, she saw the whole thing. She saw it like right in front of her. Because she wasn't filming anything. She was just standing there waiting to shoot her stuff, the rest of her shots. So that was really, really weird, and it was really cool too, because it was like, wow, that was the second paranormal experience that we've had filming, or I guess the third maybe, if you could count. There was another time where my former co-star was here, because I think I know who the spirit is. There was another time my former co-star was here. She was in the bathroom, and we have these 3 light bulbs above the mirror, and one of them is out. But it has this weird thing where it keeps flickering on and off once in a while. Like, it'll just flicker on and off at these very weird times. And it's weird because obviously it's out. You know, the light bulb is out. But my former co-star was in there, and she looked up pictures of Sharon on Google, Sharon Tate on Google, so that she could replicate her eye makeup, which honestly, I don't know. It's not very hard to replicate because you just paint a line above your eyes. But she looked up pictures of her, and as soon as she looked up a picture of her, the light bulb above her started flickering. And she actually filmed it too. So I guess the third or fourth like paranormal experience. Like, so we've had a lot of those experiences on set, and yeah. Anyways, I finished filming with the maid. And I gotta say, working with Denise was really, really enjoyable. And it's so funny because we took a lunch break and we were eating at City Barbecue together, which I thought was a lot of fun. Luckily, it wasn't too crowded. It was interesting because I brought up the first movie that I was trying to make with her, my first ever movie, Distorted Cuts. And keep in mind, that was 2017. And this is 2024, almost 2025. That's like 7 years difference. But the interesting part was the fact that she could remember that script, and she could remember, she was telling me like how much she loved the last whole third act of the movie and how she really wanted to do her opening scene, and like she really thought the opening scene was awesome. So just the fact that people could remember like a script of mine from that long ago, it was really, really cool to me, because it's like, it almost felt like maybe this could happen when I actually get my movies made and released. Like, you'll have people who will be able to remember these awesome moments. Like, because what it's all about is translating the script to the screen and adapting it from the script to the screen. And so if that stuff stuck in her head that much, I mean, this is 7 years. 7 years ago, I would never have expected her to remember, oh, do you remember what happened at the end of that script for that movie that we were supposed to make and then didn't because the crowdfunder didn't raise any money? Like, I never would have expected her to remember that. So that was kind of like an awesome moment for me. Anyways, sorry guys, I don't know, and this is the other funny part too. Again, I think I've mentioned this before. For some reason, I've had this anxiety shooting videos, and so that's why my voice sounds a little bit rough, is because the anxiety is triggering some kind of a throat irritation thing. It doesn't happen any other time. Like, it doesn't happen when I'm filming on set. It doesn't happen when I'm talking in real life. It only happens when I'm filming videos. So then we get back to the set. It's just me and Michael for the rest of the day. And to be honest, this was also like a really fun experience, because him and I just gelled so well together. And the way that, like, he was very adaptable and very much like, there were some certain shots that I thought, maybe an actor wouldn't agree to do something like that in terms of, like, for safety reasons. But he agreed to do it as long as we did it, like, and I was confident and we could do it in, like, a safe way. But, like, I was really happy about that, because I really felt like his flexibility and his eagerness to just get shit done, we worked really well together, and we got a lot of fantastic shots. And it's funny, because the very first thing we did was we used this test dummy. This test dummy that was supposed to have been made in May, back when I was shooting with my former co-star. The first week I was shooting with her. And of course, I've already told the story before, but what happened was, I was starting to make it, and I bought all the supplies to make it. I was starting to make it, and she was having a temper tantrum about it, and she was sitting on the bed pouting and making faces and crossing her arms, and, you know, she wasn't helping at all. She was just kind of sitting there like a diva, and you know, while me and the other actress were trying to make this test dummy, which the test dummy was going to be used for like a number of scenes, like 4 or 5 times. That's a lot of use that you get out of a test dummy. And at a certain point, she's like, I don't like this. This is amateur. This isn't going to look good. Meh, 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 meh. And so she basically like wouldn't let us make the test dummy. Like, she was framing it in such a way to where she was like making it seem like I was doing something amateur or I was doing something wrong. And it's funny because I listened to her. I don't know why I did, because I knew that this test dummy would very much come in handy. And that it was sort of like a thing of like where, like, why are you telling me that the thing that I've already thought about isn't going to work, even though I know it's going to work? And guess what, guys? We had to use it for the sequence. We had to use the test dummy, and it worked exactly how it was intended to work, and it looked great. And so, again, it's like, that just shows, like, when you're making a movie, you can't always listen to everyone. You have to know that what you're doing is right. You have to know what you're doing is what you need to do. Because, like, I would have already had that dummy made months ago. And, frankly, I could have used it for other situations as well. And the fact that I didn't have that there, it's just... I can't believe that for a certain period of this year, I was basically, like, under her spell. Basically, like, completely, like, bitch made. Let's see. Through doing these special effects, too, it is very messy. And there was a lot of, like, taking off your shoes, putting on shoe covers, walking around in your socks. There were a lot of times where we had to go to the bathroom to wash stuff off our hands. I had to change in and out of character like 5 or 6 times. It kind of reminded me, I talked about this on the day that we were filming yesterday, it kind of reminded me, if you guys have ever seen Mrs. Doubtfire, the last part where he's in the restaurant and he has to go to the bathroom and change into Mrs. Doubtfire and then change into his own personality. Like, that's what this reminded me of, because, like, that's what I had to do, like, the whole day. I just constantly going to the bathroom, washing off the makeup, doing my hair a different way, putting on a different wardrobe. Like, it was really, really funny. And I've already talked about how one of the special effects ended up being, like, probably the greatest thing that I've ever seen on a movie set. What was so cool about it was that it made me think, like, not that I don't expect this movie. I'm not going to expect any movie that I make to just be like a classic or be some kind of a masterpiece or an iconic movie, because that's obviously very egotistical to think, and it's very... I think it kind of gives you, too, like you're jinxing yourself. Like, oh yeah, this is going to be the greatest movie ever made, and it comes out and it's like, oh, it's the worst one or something. Like, but it made me think, like, is this what it felt like to be on the sets of, like, Dawn of the Dead or Halloween or Friday the 13th or something, where, like, you have these really cool special effects, and to just see those special effects happen on set, like, is this what it actually feels like? Is this what it was like? Because it's probably the best feeling that I've ever had on a film set. It was so cool. And then Michael brought up the point that through working together on this movie with these people who do show up and they don't just quit or they don't just, like, complain the whole time, through working with these like-minded people and working together, we're building, like, our own community to make films. Because that was something that the casting website mentioned, like, this is for the better of the community, which it wasn't, because the whole community agrees that they want to work with me and that my movie is really good. But we're building our own community. You know, like, our community is only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Like, oh, will you help me with my film? Will you help me with my film? Like, it's going to be a very, very cohesive and synergetic group, like a group that works really, really well together. I really feel it, especially from this time that we filmed together. So I felt pretty exhausted by the end of the shoot. I was nowhere near as bad as I was last week, though. It might be due to my body just adjusting to doing that amount of work in a day, but it might also just be because I did it in a smart way. I took breaks. I took a lunch break. I took my time. I wasn't rushing around. And then when I got home, I took glutamine and I felt almost better enough to go back there and shoot more stuff. Even though by the evening I was ready to pass out. And today I honestly feel pretty tired too. So the overall vibe of the day was dreams coming true. Even though it was just us 3 people, it felt like, since we all wanted to be there, it was such a more positive filming experience. And we got such better quality footage too. So I'm really happy that things worked out the way they did. I can't wait to finish up filming there, whether it be with another new actor or whether it be how I originally planned it. You know, I don't, honestly, at this point, like, Expendable's gonna be expendable, you know what I mean? Like, not my problem, you know, it just, I'll find someone else if I need to, like, for any character. Like, I think I talked about this in last video, I was almost thinking of recasting the jerk from last week. I was thinking of recasting him so that I could just shoot a couple more shots with him, because when I was filming with that guy last week, I think this is probably a problem. Like, this shouldn't be how it is. But I was kind of, like, hesitant to do anything with him. Like, I was kind of like, he's just going to complain about everything. So, like, there were certain shots that I didn't get with him that I really wanted to get. And I just felt so nervous and so hesitant about doing anything with him, that I just said, you know what, I'll get these couple of shots I need and he can leave. So I was thinking, like, maybe I should get someone else just to shoot these couple of other shots, or to redo it a whole thing, because he got the best part of the whole sequence and he really doesn't deserve it, honestly. So yeah, anyways, please like this video and comment and tell me what you think about the whole filming experience. Do you have any words of wisdom about filmmaking, or do you agree with some of the things that I said? Did you ever have any similar experiences when you were making your own movie? And then please subscribe to our channel if you'd like to see more honest videos like these. Goodbye, everybody. See you soon.